These guys are all kidding.
Hi everybody, and welcome to a very specific session of the Kreativ Lounge here at South by Southwest at the German Volkshaus. The Kreativ Lounge is an initiative supported this year by the MIZ, a leading media innovation center in the region of Berlin-Babelsberg in Germany. And it is normally produced 6 times a year, and sometimes there are very specific sessions in a very exotic sphere at conferences like the Media Convention Republica, or today in a very mythical location at South by Southwest here in Austin. Normally, it's actually broadcasted at the Berlin capital region in the Babelsberg location, which is the vibrant location for IT, tech, and media companies, and a very good environment too. And maybe a couple of further words about the MIZ. The MIZ, I don't know how to say it in English actually. At any case, it means the Media Innovation Center of Babelsberg. And it is an institution of the Media Authority Berlin-Brandenburg, the MABB, and it is dedicated to funding cross-media innovation projects beyond traditional broadcasting technologies. And the program addresses the market-specific trends between content and new technologies for radio, TV, and online media. And also, which is quite interesting, the MIZ has a lot of cooperations with universities, and as such is the perfect host of this program to make a bridge between all the panelists here today. So this time is a very international Kreativ Lounge. We have, I have the pleasure to have experts from New York, from the States, and from Germany. I'm myself French, so it is really super international. And we're going to explore the German and American perspectives and about concrete innovation projects and the crossing of tech, media, and journalism. The guests I'm invited today, I start with Emily Bell. Emily Bell is the director of the TOE Center for Digital Journalism at the Columbia Journalism School. Justin Hendricks, here also from New York, from the NYC Media Lab, is its executive director. We have Danielle Fiene, who is a journalist, an editor, and a radio presenter. And last but not least, the actual normal host of this broadcast, Michael Pretorius himself, and he's he's not only a journalist and teaching, and he is also the director of Noeo. I will get back to that a bit later on. And shortly about me, I am the CEO of the Marketing Catalyst, which is a little boutique consulting company for marketing strategies at the crossing between tech and the digital business fields. So, and bear with me, it's my first time with top 4 journalists here. And yeah, it's going to be a great pleasure today. Emily, I'm going to start with you on your presentation. I know you are actually broadcasting at the same time. Everybody's broadcasting here. Yes. It's really like an overload of broadcasts. You joined the TOE Center as its inaugural director in 2010. You worked actually over 20 years as a leading print and online journalist.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, no, but I mean, really, and the majority of your career was spent at the Guardian News and Media, and I think it is really worth saying. You were the editor-in-chief across the Guardian websites and director of digital content, and you led the web team in pioneering live blogging, multimedia formats, data, and social media. And Guardian Co.uk became one of the world's leading digital news brand, has won 4 Webby Awards in 5 years. Come on, and best newspaper on the web. So, and you're still writing and blogging about content, tech.
I'm afraid so, yes.
Yes. How do you do that?
How do I do that? Well, I don't go to the gym very often. So it's kind of, no, you have to, I think you have to slightly be in the media to understand what's going on in there. And there's nothing like actually producing something to keep you kind of current. So, you experience a lot through doing your own work, I think.
So it means once in the media, never out of the media anymore, right?
If you're very unlucky.
Exactly. Actually, it suits very well to what Danielle is doing. Danielle, you I said already, you are an active journalist, editor, and radio presenter. You host a very famous weekly radio magazine in Germany called Was mit Medien. The German will understand what I mean with that, Was mit Medien. It's coming from a German joke about people having to do anything with media. I call it like, I would translate with media stuff, right? So you are also, I mean, everyone is media in media today too, right? Yeah.
That's true.
So you have been nominated also, I mean, everybody has awards here, as the best radio journalist of the year. You got the radio award for internet broadcasting for media stuff. So, and you are still very active, obviously, with this. So how is it with Was mit Medien?
Oh, when we started it 10 years ago at a campus radio station, it was like, okay, we have to know how media works. And actually, 10 years later, we still haven't figured out yet. So we are still curious what's going on. Everything's changing so much. And we actually have so much fun doing the show because every week we discover so interesting stuff, and it never gets boring. So I'm curious how long we have to go on with this show until the answer is there. And I don't see any answer yet.
I think forever. We probably will all sit here in 50 years and say, do you remember we had to do something with media? We're still there, right?
Yeah.
Never out of the media.
That's right.
Justin, you are you connect companies seeking to advance digital media technologies with university capabilities in order to drive collaborative projects and innovation. Before joining the NYC Media Lab, you were Vice President, Business Development and Innovation for the Economist Group in the Americas, where you directed the innovation process. So, and I think if I read well, you know Austin very well, right?
I did go to graduate school here. That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Okay. So how is it to be back here? And
you know, I was just saying to these guys, and I'm very happy that I'm being also broadcast by my fellow panelists. I think this is the first time that I've been in a session that's been both broadcast over YouTube and also meerkatted at the exact same moment. So that's very exciting.
It's called multimedia casting.
Absolutely, multimedia casting. I was just saying to these guys, this is my first time at South by Southwest, which I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to admit. But, you know, having done a master's degree in Austin and spent quite a bit of time here, for whatever reason, I have never been able to make it. My schedule's never lined up. So I'm
very glad. Yeah, that's great. A very good reason to welcome you even warmer. That's great. Thank you. And then I turn to Michael. Michael, you are a long-time TV and radio journalist. You teach on the fields of journalism, media management, and social media. So that's actually perfect. So how does it feel for you to be a guest today? I mean, you look really relaxed, right? I mean, this is the attitude here. It's really cool and relaxed at any case. Yes, so...
Way to do this, everything. So what the people on the screen don't know, this is the video mixer on this laptop, where I can switch from camera 1 to camera 2. There's my script, what I will tell you later. And I'm just doing the intro. And so I'll be right now relaxed. So being the host for the show would be more stressful than sitting as a guest here relaxed in the studio.
I'm glad to have a bit.
I wanted to say
you don't even need
so
a
I can
microphone
tell you everything
anymore.
again.
Relaxed,
Okay, so I'm so relaxed that I also forgot
Yeah.
the microphone. So I just wanted to tell you, that I'm not only the guest. So I will be the guest and I will answer all the questions. Yes, but I'm also now the guy behind the equipment here to switch between camera 1 and camera whatever. And so I hope everything's going fine right now.
Okay, fine. Okay, good. So now I took an overview of the panels at South by Southwest dealing with our topic, far or close. And there are a couple of buzzwords standing out, sometimes sounding very dramatic, or I would say maybe something like more very exciting. So you can have your checklist now and check if you still make it, like blowing up J School, the dramatic rise and impact of video journalism. I know that the Toe Center is there, yeah. Journalism at the age of GIFs. Can photojournalism survive smartphones? The news in the age of Snapchat, right? We were talking about this before. Immersive virtual reality journalism, news games, how a new media business model can save journalism. So basically, I had the impression we see that quite something is happening there. It looks like journalism is an old man on life support. And, you know, we are asking ourselves here, can wearables and Oculus Rift and Bitcoin and advertising actually save journalism with a capital J? What kind of tools, what kind of skills are actually required for this new era coming up? I mean, if I can talk about new era, we're in the middle of it actually, right? How can we actually bring the best user experience to consumer on these multiple connected devices? Which are the new business models that are actually coming up? And how can education programs and media labs be a part of this to support this and be a new life elixir, so to speak? And more specifically, here I would like to have these today, like these very specific promote this new generation in media with innovative tools, workflows, and media products. Maybe I will start again with Emily. And because, I mean, we're talking about journalism education, and if you hear a read or hear a read there, that it is long overdue for a remake, or that it is quite an outdated a system. And so what are the new emerging educational models for journalism these days, and who is pioneering new approaches? And maybe tell me a little bit more about the Tow Center here.
I'd just like to interject. We're also experimenting with a new form, which is Meerkat within Meerkat. Can everyone see?
I wish the camera could see this.
Meerkat within Meerkat.
The camera in the camera. I mean,
so made up.
Yeah.
You know what? Literally, my least favorite thing in the world is being photographed. So this is some kind of like hazing.
But we are missing a camera, the selfie. You know, you just had it on the top of it.
Selfie stick.
Yeah, a selfie stick on top of this.
For meerkatting, a meerkatting stick. Sorry, we were talking about J schools.
We were talking about the Tow Center and what you do for premiering this.
So I think it's you know, I moved to New York 4 years ago, nearly 5 years ago actually now, to set up this thing called the Tow Center, which was at Columbia Journalism School, which is a great school, but kind of quite traditional in some ways in its approach. It's always been known as a writer's school. And they have great, you know, documentary and digital media programs there. But this sort of idea of how do you shift, you know, within the academy, all educational establishments, for good reason, tend to move a little bit slower than real life. You know, it's a little bit like how newspapers on the web always moved slower than web publishing. And as an education, you have to change so much about a curriculum which has to go through a sort of an official system. So what Columbia is doing at the moment is really sort of introducing through the Tow Center, and we have a sister institution called the Brown Institute, which is for media innovation, which we where we partner with Stanford Engineering on the West Coast, Columbia Journalism School. The Tow Center we produce a lot of research. We have taken sort of very active part in thinking about and figuring out new curricula. Interesting statistic for you, which is when I arrived 4 years ago, we didn't have a single sort of course that was called data journalism or computational journalism. Next year, it's likely to be that 20% of the school are data and computational journalist focus, and that's in a school with over 200 graduate students. So one of the things I think is just understanding strategically that if you're going to be in digital media, you have to really understand the data layer of the internet and how that works in terms of telling stories, also how computational, you know, how platforms and journalism intersect, and how those techniques don't change. You know, reporting is still the same. Why is this a story? Is a really important skill that is actually quite difficult to, you know, acquire. But, you know, how you now tell a story is so different. Look, I mean, this
absolutely.
So,
I was even trying
that's,
to make on top of it. But
and there's some great innovation in New York in other schools as well. Like CUNY have done sort of social journalism. The New School are doing something called journalism and design. And I think it's bringing things in from outside the field that we traditionally think of as journalism.
Yeah, I also read the Ball State University has now a lab-based storytelling program, really dedicated to this span across screens, books, stages, mobile devices, and etc. There is also a new social journalism degree at the CUNY to recast journalism as a service, to make it even more social and like binds communities. So, I mean, there is a lot happening there. So, I mean, my question was a bit provocative. I mean, I see it coming so far that I don't see a sclerosed educational system. Something is happening there and very fast, right? Maybe to, Michael, you are also teaching journalism in various and prestigious institutions in Munich, Germany, and also in Vienna and Austria. What are you telling to these young fellows? What do you think, which skills are really important today for them?
I think when we talk about mass media, we always talk about critical mass. And I think the situation for critical mass is totally over. If we talk about personalized media like Facebook, like Twitter, like Meerkat, we don't talk about critical mass anymore. What we are thinking about is critical density. So how do I activate people? How do I promote my show? How do I promote my content? And also an interesting thing is how is content not to be consumed? How could content be a media for communication? So if we all see this reaction GIFs on the internet, so people are talking to each other through GIF images, where they take images from movies and they react to it. So this is just one of these things. That's not journalism, but that's a kind of making people speech to. Making people speak to through media, and I think that's interesting. So basically, the main thing is what is about activating people to read, to listen, or to watch my show or my article. And the next thing is it doesn't stop when it's not the end when I finish the show. It's not the end when I finish my article. So that's just the beginning. Then starts the conversation, and all social media first. So can I start my story in social media? So can I find the main people, the main part of my stories through social media, and then write it through the social networks, and then make it richer, make it wider in a TV media or in a radio or on an article.
Right, and I think it's a huge field right now, and it's interesting. I turn to Daniel again. I mean, you have been studying at the renowned Münster University in Germany, and I wanted to know, like, where did you learn your skills best? Was it at the university those days, or how was it with the practice? How did you make yourself a journalist?
Actually, the university was perfect because it just gave me the free time to do stuff somewhere else. Actually, the most important part of my university time at university was when I worked at the campus radio station. So just by doing it, that we learned how to manage for ourselves a 24-hour radio station. And you don't just learn journalism, you learn all the other skills, how to manage everything, how to engage with other editors, young editors, and how to create an environment for good journalism. And actually, what I did later in my job, everything I need there, I learned at the campus radio station. So in the infrastructure in North Rhine-Westphalia, they have a special system where it works very different from other areas in Germany. And I really appreciated how it works there, because we had good networks with other campus radio stations. We had good workshops.
Mm-hmm.
They have been crucial for our journalism experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very good thing. And to be honest, at university, what I took from my history and politics classes was not so important for my today's career, actually.
Yeah, I think it has always to do with practice and the way to just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Justin, which role do play media labs in these evolving media landscapes of today? And what is the New York Media Labs doing in particular?
Well, so just to pick up on a couple of the themes here, I'll first say a word about the Media Lab. NYC Media Lab is a consortium of universities in New York, which includes Columbia, also NYU, the New School,
right.
Pratt, CUNY, et cetera, and also big media companies that are based there. So we work with a lot of different news publishers, companies like News Corp and Hearst, but also companies like ESPN, Major League Baseball, Showtime, et cetera. So we are essentially trying to connect the technologists in those companies with faculty and students on the campuses who are interested in doing experiments around the future of media.
Can you tell us a project, maybe?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples. Actually, one that I'm working on with a colleague of Emily's, Mark Hansen, who's at the Brown Institute for Media Innovation, is a project, a working group that includes News Corp and also NYU engineers at NYU. Working on a tool set, an open source tool set for data visualization for journalists. So it's probably a bit simplistic to say this, but it's kind of like Scratch, if you're familiar with that visual programming tool from MIT, for journalists to create data visualizations, which is a very cool project and something we're very proud of.
Very good. I come back to Michel straight after this, because you have been also working with the MIZ, with the MIZ. And can you tell us a little bit more about the project that the MIZ has been doing in the recent times? I think of Atawash.
Yeah, there's a great thing I can show you right now. So maybe I switch to low text here.
That's fantastic.
The thing is, there's a new trend, and it's all about these scrolling things. So we have completely new interfaces. We use mobile phones, and there's another buzzword. It's Scrolly Telling. And,
I forgot that one.
I just have to key in my password here, so that was the right question to the right time. So I prepared a video for that. I just screenshotted the screencast of the website here for Atawash. So this is a Scrolly Telling thing. I can show you right now, where people can, let me full screen this. So it's a story. You can scroll down, you can scroll left, you can scroll through the story. There's background music, there's videos inside, and it's about the change of a region in Germany where they produce Ignite. And so the story is done with support from Arte, a culture television station in Germany and France, and the Süddeutsche Zeitung, a newspaper in Germany, and it's a awarded Scrolly Telling thing. So it was the first Scrolly Telling journalism project in Germany, and it was founded by the MIZ. So that's one of the great things you see here, and you see that's not only images; the images are moving. So I think we're in the beginning of that. So what will be the future of that, and how can we find new storytelling ways through mobile media, through scrolling usabilities? And I think that was one of the main goals for that project, to find out how can we distribute content in the future. How can we bring big stories, not only clicks and gaining link baits on Facebook, but how can we gain the time users spend on our websites, spend on our stories? How can we make them read longer stories in the future?
Yes, and I think that Atawash is a very good example, because not only it is beautiful, but you can see also the high quality of the research, the immersive content you can have there. It's really a very nice thing. There are also other projects, the MIZ, which are interesting. The crowd story, merging auto talk with crowdsourcing, which is interesting. ClickStar, which enables editing web documentaries from TV content with authoring software. That's quite interesting too. Lobby Radar is also good for interactive transmedia research project on the subject of lobbyism. So there is quite a lot happening there. Emily, how do you work with media labs? Actually, do you work with media labs, and how is the bridge between the educational, university, institutional centers you have and the media industry there?
Well, we work with Justin. So again,
Yes,
we're actually, the Town Centre is co-funding some of the work that he was describing on building a platform for journalism. And it's the kind of project that you would never undertake in a newsroom, because it's possible you'll come out with a sort of brilliant product, but it's mostly about the experimentation of learning. And if you think about the relationship that, say, biotechnology or computer science has with, these are fields that are always kind of developing. And so they have a very tight relationship with the industries that they serve. And in journalism, it's almost like, kind of been sort of trailing in the wake of the practice, and the experimentation in the practice has been pretty minimal. And now we find, I'll find myself talking, much more to, people like Justin or to the New York Times Research and Development Lab, because you're starting to think what's next. So we've done work, for instance, on sensors, on like remote sensing satellites, on kind of like Earth-based sort of sensors, because you're trying to think. We're doing a big project at the moment with virtual reality, and working again with PBS and also with people who are sort of experimenting in a lab way with this storytelling, because you just don't have either the resources or the time to do these things in the newsrooms unless you're a really well-resourced media company. So I think that journalism is now becoming this really sort of diminished part of a huge information ecosystem.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to that.
And therefore, sort of, to be effective as journalistic organizations, universities, news organizations, labs, have to work together, I think, to make that layer, which is very thin, extremely robust. So
yes, just
I was just going to add, I completely agree, as I would, but it's interesting to me. I think that there's a language of experiment, test, repeat, in universities that I feel like media companies that were operating in with business models that were sort of set for some period of time in the 20th century had forgotten, that methodology, that scientific process. And we've kind of come back to that in a way. And you think about even, if I talk to CTOs in the media companies that I work with, they are all implementing Agile or some form of Agile, which essentially is the scientific process, and so the methodologies that come out of tech and come out of research have crept into the practice of journalism as we attempt to accommodate new technologies.
Absolutely. But when we go beyond experimental, when suddenly there is a project there has been a bridge between the university, the media lab, the corporate companies, and you have the feeling you touch a nerve there. What are the key elements of these business models that you can see so that you think that it is really going to be a success, so they can break through on the market? Can you see something there, and how do you support this?
That's a tough question.
Sorry.
Because I think I take a sort of slightly different view of business models, which is I can see how now data and investigative journalism, which are much more complex, documentary journalism as well.
Right.
These are sort of areas which are becoming more complicated because you have to produce really detailed work in real time almost. The cycle is speeding up, and do it with fewer people if you can. So the real, I think, we see things like automation. And again, if you think about what are Google and Facebook investing in, and they're investing in AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and that's because we're going to go through another phase where all of this mass amount of information that we produce has to be sorted and created into other artifacts. And in order to do that, you have to know, machine learning, you have to, have natural language processing, you have to have all of these techniques which are relative to science, but really new for journalism. So I think, again, how do we see those models evolving is spot the trends which you think will be directly applicable. And we weren't wrong about things like data journalism. That was something where the industry probably was more resistant to it than J schools and labs and things.
Yes.
But now we're seeing a huge boom in sort of, the market for our students who can do things that, frankly, a lot of people in newsrooms can't do. They can't use R to sort data sets, etc. So those are, whether it makes money, different question.
That would be the next question, but I would like to stay a little bit on the tools and maybe ask Daniel again, or also Michael, please. Do you think that the role of journalism is actually shifting through the use of these tools? Because, I mean, basically, we were saying before, I mean, we can see here, who is the journalist at the end? I mean, everybody can publish anything, say anything or something. So do you think the technology is shifting the role of the journalist today? And which tech tools do you personally use as journalists? I would be interested to know. Danielle, maybe first, and then Michael.
Well, when you look at my desk, I think for my tweet deck is my whole center of everything. So I really enjoy this program. It's so important to me because it's perfect for all my jobs I have to do. So, but basically, I think the tools don't change journalism so much, because when we compare journalism today with journalism 10 years ago, or even longer, then today a journalist has, even everyone can publish, is more like a moderator. He drives attention, he curates things, and he needs to be very social and talk to people and creates new spaces for discussions. And there are these new tools we're dealing with, beginning with blogs, Twitter, Meerkat, for example. They are supporting this work that you need for this, I think.
Okay. And you, Michel, which tools do you use for your journalistic activities?
I think the same tools as Daniel also already mentioned. So my most used tool is my cell phone, my smartphone. I think smartphone reporting is one of the most important things to talk about right now. I think if we talk about the future of journalism and what the tools are, then we have to see the other side of journalism, the brand side. So situation that all brands want to become media companies right now. They can gain their own reach through Facebook, through Twitter, through Snapchat, whatever tool you will name, but they can, and they have to convert these people to be clients. And what journalism is doing, we have all these tools as well, but we have nothing to convert. So we want to gain reach, and what then? So how can we activate people? And activation and journalism are things that are, it's a little bit cheesy if we want to activate people. So we don't want to activate people. But on the other hand, there's brands outside who want to activate their clients, their people. And in the past, they used journalism for that. They used PR, they used advertisement. But in the meanwhile, they're using content, buzzword content marketing. And so all these tools are now on the same desktop for brands, for journalists, for activists, for politicians, for everyone. So we have to see the journalism part in that, but we have also to think about what do we want to do with these tools.
Absolutely, but I think here we are actually mixing up a couple of things, because we're talking a lot about content too, which is not journalism at all.
Yeah.
So we have, and most of the time people do not differentiate, because I mean, I was yesterday at that panel and it was really a great panel, but everybody was talking about content and not the quality of journalism. So I think we have to make a difference here. There is maybe a journalism with a capital J. I mean, I don't want to be hierarchical or elitist at some point, right? Which is exposing injustice and reports news that are important and etc. And there is content like stuff that people and everybody can, media stuff, was mit Medien, that people are actually just posting like crazy, and suddenly, oh yeah, I'm a publisher or I'm a journalist, So of course I'm here and I'm like, okay, we have to see this, and it is very important. This branding.
See, there was the brand Red Bull, who just jumped out of the air, and they used YouTube. And this was a live broadcast without any licensee from a broadcast regulator. They just did it, and they used a tool given through Google, YouTube. And now we have Meerkats, and we have so many people from the South by Southwest right now broadcasting your device, millions of devices, not millions, but thousands of devices the recent days. They just broadcasting, they're using these tools. But what are they doing with that? I think we have to talk about the tools and the content, but we should differentiate in here too much.
Yes.
So I think this is a really important point, which is this idea. So two things are happening. One of which is you have traffic, and what and you have brand, or you have voice and values, And it's absolutely right to say that on the one hand, you know, kind of actually what creates traffic and reach is not necessarily, and often can lead you away from, what creates voice and value in journalism. And you can see I think you can see the journalism companies who have worked this out. So I think BuzzFeed has a really clear view of what is creating traffic and reach and what the kind of brand is about. In legacy companies, it's kind of confusing because your reach and your brand were always, you know, the sort of the same thing. And this idea now that you need a huge market of scale, particularly if you're going to have an advertising based model.
Yes.
That's sort of, in a way, extremely kind of troubling for journalism, because you can't, you know, anyone can create those markets of scale. So how do you make your actual brand? How do you make your reach worth something? And, you know, kind of the key differentiator for journalism is it should stand apart from the commercial world. It should stand apart from government, should stand apart from other systems of power and interrogate them. And of course, the great irony is that journalism now is deeply reliant on some of the most sort of non-journalistic companies in the world.
Exactly.
You know, Google, Facebook,
exactly.
You know, whatever, to reach the market. They are the free press. They don't have the principles, you know, that are supposed to underlie the free press. And yet they're going to have to take on those responsibilities. It's a kind of really fascinating time, I think, for that switch.
Absolutely. But I mean, if journalism with a big J, I mean, high quality journalism, and journalism as such, as you guys understand it and make it every day with research, with content which is really like worked on, elaborated, not proof, but interrogating, bringing new questions, and etc. If this journalism is to act independently, how can we say that branded content and brands pretending to be media companies? I mean, this branding content question is very open to me. Like, can you believe it? Because you know that people, the brands want to attract people, and it's not. It's actually more the content and the way they attract people. This is what is really interesting for them. So, you know, is this journalism?
Well, no, but you've always had the branded content paradigm, right?
All the time. It was subsidized.
And actually, I think what's going to happen to create value, even in branded content, journalistic organizations will just have to be much more transparent. I think there's real value in absolute transparency about, you know, every part of your process, including who paid for this, you know, and I think we sort of, you know, we're used to a kind of visual transparency in print or broadcast. These are the commercials. This page is an advert, and in digital, we're sort of working towards how do we understand and how do we create transparency, because I think if journalism doesn't, it's just not going to be as good at creating the stuff as stuff creators are. So, you know, for us, our value is people knowing where we come from and why we're doing it.
But isn't that the problem that we have, like Daniel said, we have journalists and we have curators right now. So who's the journalist in the future? And who's the journalist right now? So everyone who wants to speak has a speech right now through YouTube, through Meerkat, through Twitter, and can broadcast and can public. Can publish something. So the thing is, who is moderating this and who is creating this? Is journalism not only, or is it journalism not more curating the content in the future? I think BuzzFeed is a right example for that. Maybe the cat content is not the right example for that, but they are aggregating content from the net and they're moderating this in their way. But could be a way for the New York Times or for other magazines or newspapers the same way, to have journalists finding the right stuff on the internet, moderating this stuff, verifying this stuff, what is true, what is not true, and bringing the audience to that, gaining the reach for that, but curating the content that's outside, and having these maybe trusted people as the content, as the voice, the evidence. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Justin, you wanted to react on this.
Because I think transparency is the key thing in both these sides of the conversation. And I think the technology is going to help, you know, when it comes to transparency. If you think about the project we're doing with Emily and Mark Hansen and the folks at Columbia and NYU, one of the purposes of that is to embed the provenance of the data and the actual data, pardon me, in the visualization of it as it passes around on the media. What's cool about that is that if you're a reader, if you're someone who disagrees with the data as it's presented, you can simply open it up and see what it looks like on the inside. So if a brand were to use that system, and it'll be an open source system, and they could potentially employ it to create their own data visualizations and stories, publishes a graph, making a claim, and there's a particular number there that you disagree with, you'll be able to go right there, take a look from and manipulate it in some way. And I think that sort of thing, that's just a small example, that sort of thing points to a world where information perhaps will travel with tools embedded that will potentially help us to understand whether it's transparent or whether it's valuable as information.
Emily, you also wanted to react on that.
Yes, sorry, I've lost my video stream. That's I'm distracted. No, just on the point of who is this point about curation and who is a journalist. I mean, so I've gone 180 degrees on this, which is anyone can be a journalist, and not anyone can be a journalist. Actually, you have to self-identify as a journalist, and doesn't mean that you have to be a professional journalist. But, why is it important for people to say, I am a journalist? Well, two things. First of all, accountability to your audience. Who does it matter to? Who does it matter that this information comes from? Well, first of all, it should matter to you guys that if I'm filming you, I'm doing it kind of openly and saying I'm a journalist. And if I put something on the web that you really hate, there's kind of accountability to me and my organization. And I think, again, that's sort of so in a way, we went through a cycle where people said there's going to be data and there's going to be tools and there are going to be sort of civic movements, and we don't need journalism anymore. And I think what people have seen, even sort of almost kind of evangelists for that new model have seen, is like, hang on a second, actually that really doesn't work. That the complexity that we're now seeing in the world demands interpretation and with clarity. So I think it's such, the who is a journalist question is really important. But the answer to that used to be, it doesn't matter. And I think the answer now is, and always has been, it really matters.
It does, yeah.
I totally agree. And thinking back something we were talking about before we went, if you stand back on the moon and you kind of look at all the signals coming off the Earth, it used to be perhaps that there were some stronger signals coming out of the broadcast media organizations or the journalistic organizations as we typically think of them. Now there are so many different signals coming, and so the role for journalism in that is to shape those signals, to tweak them, to verify them, to dial them up or dial them down, and with regard to what really is important, what is real information,
and create their own platforms. Crucially, so we've outsourced a lot of this to the technology industry, and some of that works really well because we can't build those platforms of scale. But we have to kind of, we have to also know how the world is being programmed and how to publish our own stuff. That's like really important. So that's where I think there's got to be a skill shift.
So when we stick to the question, who is a journalist? I think even for professional journalists, the lines are changing. You talked about Facebook and Google, how they're engaging in journalism. So what happened when we see more brands starting own new newsrooms, for example, or when we look at David Pogue going to Yahoo? Is he a better journalist, or isn't he a journalist anymore because he isn't at a traditional media company in a sense we discuss legacy media? Or is he still a fanboy or not a fanboy? I don't know, for certain companies. So I think in the next few years, we are going to see that professional journalists are switching over to other companies because just they say, okay, we have a better environment here. I don't want every time I need a new software license, I don't want to fight for it. I just want to do my job. So and I think, do we accept that, or do we want to accept that? These are huge questions. I think there isn't an answer for that right now.
it brings us to the question also, like, what are the new business model for journalism as such? I mean, what is coming up? Which scenarios are coming up? I mean, I think it's not all about scale. This is what was the Vice guy was saying yesterday on the panel. I mean, there are very nice opportunities for premium content, and this is what we are talking about. Also, it is a content which is written by journalists, but also curated and commented and put as a discussion platform online by journalists. So a premium content of high caliber, a niche audience, and then develop a respected news brand around that. That could be a very nice a way to differentiate from content and stuff, so to speak, right? The question is, like, who is going to pay for that, right? If I see the results of the Pew report, which were yesterday also in that panel, I mean, the audience is less than 25% of people paying directly for the content, and 70%, 69, 70% is like advertising. Right. I mean, so it seems that this subsidized business model, like that, you have people paying for the advertising because of the attention of the content is still working on, but people directly buying the content is still not there. There are new initiatives like this Blendle. We were talking about Blendle before, coming up. But I mean, like, what is coming up here if we bring the money issue into that? Who is going to pay for this?
I think the biggest problem for the media industry that they have no clue about the audience. So we had advertising models like placement targeting in the past, where people book a youth magazine or a political magazine or interview magazine because they want to reach that group. And now we are all envy, journalists are all envy about the user data Facebook has, Google has, Spotify has, Twitter has. We are all envy. And on the other hand, we are also fighting these companies with articles that they have no policies about data protection and privacy and whatever. Yeah. But on the other hand, media companies in the past were also the companies who had huge databases of personal addresses, postcode addresses, post addresses, email addresses that they wanted to monetize through subscriptions, but also through personal advertising. So the former model of user targeting. Yeah? And now we have Facebook as a targeting model. We have Spotify as an advertising model. We have Google with YouTube and so many personal data. And they will be the big advertising companies. They are already. They are actually. And we have no clue about the audience. And there comes BuzzFeed again. And there comes Spotify again. They know everything about me and about my media consumption. When I enter the website, they track me first, they track me twice, they track me 3 times, and then they know who I am. What they do with this data, I have no idea. But there comes ethics in the game. So what do we do with the data if we are the New York Times or a German radio station or whatever? Can we broadcast or can we deliver the best matching content? Not talking about critical mass, critical density. Right. And will there be the business model to tell our advertisers, okay, we have the right target group, you will reach your audience, and you don't pay for the page impression and for the ad impression, you pay for the conversion. That's the business model of Google, of Facebook, of Spotify, and we haven't involved that business model for journalism yet.
I think it's it's problematic, that business model, simply because people actually spend their time consuming media doing really different things to consuming journalism. So, you know, what you're absolutely right about is that, and you see this in journalism education as well, right? Which is, you see lots and lots of journalism schools which are aligned with marketing and PR and communications. So it's like marketing, PR, communications, journalism. They need to be aligned with data science. Absolutely no. It's not about a presentational issue. I mean, you know,
computer science
and computer science. Yeah, it's actually about how do you deliver. A colleague of mine, Jonathan Stray, says, you know, epistemology on deadline. How do you deliver like real knowledge very, very quickly? And then to the monetization model, you're absolutely right. You know, and the question is, has the game gone there? You know, are these mass aggregational social platforms and search engines now so big that they actually have a kind of a velocity to them where we'll never get that data back?
Yeah, but on the other hand, so the discussion was, okay, Google is so big in the meanwhile, Facebook is so big in the meanwhile, and there are other companies partnering with these companies. But what have we done? I wrote an article. I read an article last year about the New York Times and their content management systems. That your colleagues were writing that one of the biggest mistakes was not developing their own content management systems through the recent years to define the best journalism, to define the business model. What you do is you buy content management systems from some companies, you implement this for 10 years, and then after 10 years, you do the relaunch.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because I hear what you're saying, but I also spending a lot of time with the CTOs of companies like the ones you're mentioning. I do see them changing now to building their own tech, to building their own platforms. I do think that certainly in a lot of the New York media companies that I talk to, at least, personalization, recommendation, the techniques that are important to exploiting some of the business model questions that you're talking about. The companies have focused. They've doubled down on that. You know, if you want to get ahead now in a big media company in New York, at least, the best thing to do is to have had a career at Amazon, at Google, at Facebook, at Yahoo, and to have some experience in those types of platforms and with those business models, because the companies have quickly seen, you know, that's the future and that's the way to go.
And I think they'll be back with the media labs. For this, we need the media labs. We need projects where we can fail.
Well, you need a neutral place where people can mix ideas, you know, and you can try things that may fail. Yes,
and collaborate. So one of the key things I think is, think about all your domestic markets for media, and everybody defines themselves with a competitive set. You know, these are our competitors. News Corp is our competitor. You know, Zeit is our competitor. Le Monde is our competitor. It has to become a collaborative set, I think, at least for a while, because we just don't have the scale, we don't have the knowledge, we haven't got the resources. So this idea of like similar institutions with the same aims working on shared, you know, whether it's metadata standards, whether it's the kind of platforms that you need to build, whether it's even an approach back to these kind of, you know, to the Googles and Facebooks of the world, the idea that we are sort of competitive in these tiny silos now against these vast global industries, you know, that's a really problematic. And if you look at things like ProPublica in New York, which is small but really effective, it started out on the basis that everything has to be about partnerships, because you won't get the reach and you won't get the kind of impact unless you can find the right network partners for this. So for journalism, big J journalism, I think having collaborative set is much more important now than a competitor.
And I'd like to say it's also good business. You know, we're seeing examples of companies beginning to build tools for themselves and then sell them to others. If you look at
proprietary publishing tools.
That's right. Yeah. So we were talking about Mashable earlier, who threw apparently the most mob party at South by Southwest here last night. You know, they've developed this tool, and it's been well publicized, called Velocity, which is a predictive engine for content, whether how and if it will go viral. It crawls the entire internet, you know, 24 hours a day, essentially spotting content and making a prediction many hours in advance on how that content will perform. They are now opening that up and selling it to other entities and other organizations. There are many examples of that sort of thing, these capabilities that companies are building, even technologies. You're seeing news organizations patent things again, which I think is a real sign that things have changed in New York, in particular, which you know, they believe they have technologies, intellectual property that's worth protecting. So I think we're on the beginning, a cusp of a change. You know, and that some of the doom maybe over the last few years, it has sort of begun to fade a bit.
I would like to bounce on what Michael was saying and what you are saying here about the importance of partnerships. And I would like to mention maybe like two books. I mean, you know them, like Geeks Bearing Gifts from CUNY professor Jeff Jarvis.
Jeff.
Yes. And
his name.
That's
at Jeff Jarvis, not at Prof.
No,
Jarvis, right?
No, yeah. Who is a fraud and a fool, whereas the real Jeff Jarvis is great.
In any case, he was saying that the key word for the future of journalism is relationships. You want to say saying like, we don't know who it is. So this is one thing. And there is another, an assistant professor of journalism at the Southern Methodist University here, Batzel, and he has been interviewing more than 100 of journalists across the United States and the UK. And he has a forthcoming book called Engaged Journalism, Connecting with Digitally Empowered News Audiences. So it seems that this partnership, but also audience relationship, is one of the core value of journalism, like which, as you were saying before, they had this relationship to their readers before. They have the opportunity to have even stronger relationships with their readers today.
They were the only way to reach the people. So through PR and through advertising, the companies had the only way to reach people. So people want to talk to their companies, so clients want to talk to companies. So that's the real big problem with Facebook. So I don't want to talk to Procter & Gamble unless the product failed. So then I want to talk to a company. And if companies want to talk to people, they needed media in the past. Mm-hmm. So now they want to talk to their audience on themselves. So now they have to involve new content models. What's working, what's not. And that is the problem for the media industry, because now they want to talk to their clients directly and they need to talk through stories.
Absolutely. And maybe I would start with Emily. Emily, yes, it's always ladies first and etc. And I know you have your microphone and your stream. Yeah, it's a bit technically complicated, but so how do you see the future, the perspectives for journalism, and how do you see the role with Media Labs again? Just a last statement on that.
I'll go back to my statement is find your collaborative set. It's more important than your competitive set.
Excellent. Daniel, do you want to go on?
Yeah, maybe with some advice for really young journalists who are into media, who want to start something into media, that they should do something. Actually, when I talk to young journalists, maybe in some classes or workshops, and ask them, so what do you want to do? And they choose very classic rules, and I'm like, wow, there's so many possibilities, and maybe 5 to 10 out of hundreds are just are doing own stuff still. Even social media and blogging is so old right now. I think if you want to succeed, if you want to bring journalism forward, you have to do your own stuff. Just do it. So that's my point.
Absolutely, thank you, Daniel. Justin.
So maybe what I'll say is I agree with everything that's been said by these guys, but that I would just emphasize something that Emily said. If you're thinking about applying to a journalism school, maybe as an undergraduate or graduate student, and that school is not closely aligned with the computer science department or with disciplines like the data sciences, think twice, because the amount of information that our physical world, our governments, the companies that shape our reality are going to throw off in the next few decades, we all know it's just going to immensely increase. So if you are not comfortable, as Mark Hansen puts it, interrogating the data, you're not going to be able to create information that is valuable and that people will pay for.
Thank you, Justin. Last but not least, the host, guest, and technician today.
I need your microphone.
Oh, okay. I need it back.
Yeah, you get it back.
I keep it in my hand.
If you want to tell stories and you're a journalist, marry someone who knows IT.
That's excellent. And as a final word, I would say something that the founder of Blendle said yesterday, and I found it very good. I said, beware Europe, you're not innovative enough. So thank you to everyone here on the panel.
Thank
you to the audience. And let's have a good South by Southwest. Bye.
That is just 200 people. So
unbelievable. But just like nice. But look, they've got a pizza oven.
Yeah.
We've got a pizza oven